Right now on News 4 at 5, one last fight.
16 minutes versus 13 meters.
After Kaleida misses a crucial deadline, hear why there's a call for the Buffalo School District to reconsider.
And protecting pedestrians. We'll tell you what steps are being taken to make Niagara Falls Boulevard safer for those on the street.
Plus, special honor.
It's very humbling knowing that, that they're doing this for me.
We'll hear from Bills Hall of Famer Thurman Thomas as his jersey is set to be retired.
Live in high definition, this is Western New York's news leader. Now, News 4 at 5.
In just hours, we're expecting to find out who will be chosen to provide health services in the Buffalo Public Schools. Kaleida nurses have been in the schools for the past 13 years, but Kaleida missed the deadline to renew its contract with the BPS by just minutes.
News 4's Kelsey Anderson is live at a rally now in downtown Buffalo where school nurses are asking to keep their jobs in the schools. Kelsey?
Don, Jackie, behind me now are dozens of Kaleida nurses and their supporters. As Don mentioned, they are rallying here to keep their jobs in the Buffalo School District. Now, new at 5 here, I just got a look at the agenda of tonight's school board meeting, and it appears 2 other groups are on the list to be voted on tonight. Kaleida not on that list. Now, Kaleida has been in the school district for about 13 years. They missed their deadline to renew their contract by 16 minutes. That was back in January. I talked to several people here behind me, and they just want the best possible care for these kids.
You know what? This is ironic because I'm working at a school right now that I went to grammar school in. So it's like coming full circle back to where I grew up as a kid and as an adult to work in the same building now. And even though the people have changed and the children have changed, it's basically the children are children, So, and that's what we're there for. We're there to make sure that they get the best education and get the best health and stay healthy while they're there.
I did talk with an attorney representing the school district last week. He told me 10 groups got their bids in on time. 3 did not. Kaleida was a part of those 3. He told me last week those 3 will not be considered tonight. Now, again, the groups listed on tonight's agenda that I looked at earlier are supplemental health and Sunbelt staffing. It appears those 2 will be voted on whether to go into the school districts or not tonight at that school board meeting. We will be at that meeting. We will let you know what happens there. Live in Buffalo, Kelsey Anderson, News 4 at 5.
Thank you, Kelsey. An order to shelter in place was issued at 3 Buffalo public schools this morning after a shooting on the city's east side.
The schools included PS 197, Math, Science, and Technology, School 61, and School 89. Police say the shooting happened in the 100 block of Grider Street. They say a man in his 30s was shot and rushed to ECMC with what they're calling serious injuries. The shelter in place was lifted shortly after.
The jury now has the murder case involving members of the notorious Kingsmen biker gang. Jurors went home for the day just minutes ago. It has been 4 years since Paul Maui and DJ Zemansky were shot and killed outside the Kingsmen's clubhouse in North Tonawanda. Andre Jenkins is already serving life in prison for killing the 2 men. The Kingsmen national president, David Perk, is accused of ordering the hit. Officials in Amherst and the town of Tonawanda are looking into redeveloping Niagara Falls Boulevard. The Amherst supervisor is expected to release more on this tonight.
Officials say this project will enhance safety. News 4's Rachel Monjovi is live on Niagara Falls Boulevard with more about this project. Rachel?
Yeah, Don and Jackie, there's a number of reasons as to why town leaders say this redevelopment project is needed. For starters, officials say there's a considerable amount of traffic and noise on the boulevard. Now, I know it's rush hour right now, so typically we would see traffic at this hour any part in Western New York, but this just gives you an idea of some of the congestion people experience on this road every day. The Niagara Falls Boulevard Charter also talks about pedestrian safety. Officials say there are disconnected sections sidewalks, no shelters or benches at bus stops, and most importantly, crossing 4 to 6 lanes isn't safe. Now, just over the weekend, a woman died after she was hit by a car while crossing the boulevard. This project is intended to create a safer experience for pedestrians, expand public transit, and streetscape improvements. The cost of the project at this point is more than $500,000. Now, officials will be discussing this redevelopment project at tonight's board meeting in the town of Amherst. We will be covering that meeting, and we will bring you the latest details in our later newscast tonight at 10 and 11. For now, reporting live on Niagara Falls Boulevard, Rachel Monjovi, News 4 at 5.
Well, a beautiful day out there as we turn to the forewarned forecast. It's such a gorgeous day. We're going to take a live look over downtown Buffalo, and the sun is really shining. It's a great night to head outside for dinner, whether any place you like or the Buffalo Harbor even.
Water is always a good place to be, and that's where we like to find our chief meteorologist, Todd Santos. He loves the water. Todd?
I couldn't have asked for a better assignment this evening, and I have to thank my photojournalist, Dan Holland, who's with me. He was actually the one that suggested this spot out at the Buffalo Lighthouse, looking back towards the city. There are actually a number of boats out here. Spirit of Buffalo just went by. So right now we have breeze out of the northwest at 10 miles per hour, sun shining across all of western New York. Into tomorrow, we'll see similar conditions. So let's track at least what's going on for the next, say, 24 hours, pretty settled conditions. And then once we get into the weekend is where we really start to open up the rain chances. So if you look at the Lake Erie cam, still looks fairly flat out there, and it's mainly just a product of the wind direction as well with that northwesterly breeze. It has kept a few areas a bit colder right along, or cooler, I should say, right along the Lake Ontario lakeshore. But, you know, you still see some 80s. I mean, Williamsville, Marilla right now, East Aurora coming in at 83 degrees. We did manage to overachieve by a couple of degrees for a few areas today. There's a look at some of those mid and lower 70s extending down into a good stretch of the southern tier. As far as tonight's concerned, we'll mostly stay on the milder side of things. I mean, so there's a look at the wider view at the moment. You already see a couple of 50s, or I've been noticing a couple, especially into Potter County, 58 right now in Countersport. I do expect to find numbers for the most part to stay in the 50s overnight. That's pretty much the lower end of things. We still have some of the humidity in place from yesterday, so there's 1 a.m. Temperature's still very mild. If you plan on barbecuing, something like that tonight, really an ideal one to find, the conditions like this for it. 53 to start off the day tomorrow, and then we're pretty much off to the races into the afternoon. It's going to likely top off a couple degrees cooler. This model kind of limited, but I will say as we get into the late afternoon tomorrow, I do think Buffalo's good for at least some mid 70s as opposed to the lower 80s. But yesterday, we're talking about how close some of that rain would be. There it is. It's not heading towards us. Still, southern Potter and McKean counties early on could just barely get clipped, and you've certainly dealt with more cloud cover there today. Otherwise, quiet conditions. So mostly clear tonight. A little bit of patchy fog, especially for those of you right near the immediate lakeshore, where the water temperatures are in the upper 40s. But other than that, pretty nice. Looking into tomorrow, we'll take at least a glimpse at those nice temperatures coming up, but also that rain timing for the weekend. That's the tougher part, and we'll take a kind of a look at the timing for those showers, especially with all the commencement ceremonies coming up this weekend. I'm distracted. It's beautiful. I'll send it back to you guys in the studio live from the lighthouse. Back to you.
We can see why you'd be distracted. It's beautiful there. Well, a special announcement today from the Buffalo Bills. The team announced it's retiring the jersey of Bills Hall of Famer Thurman Thomas.
And the news falls on the same day as Thurman Thomas's birthday. News 4 Sports Director Josh Reed tells us when it will happen, and he actually has reaction from Thurman Thomas himself.
Thurman, thousands of players have wore the jerseys here. Decades of football have been played. Only 3 guys have ever had their jerseys retired. When you found out earlier today, what were the emotions like?
Oh, man, I almost broke down. I really did. I mean, it's a special night. It'll be a special night for me and my family, and obviously 2 teammates, Bruce and Jim, who already have their numbers retired. It'll be a special night, and what better way to start it off on a Monday Night Football game against the New England Patriots, our arch rivalry.
34. You've had it retired in high school.
Right.
You were number 34. College, number 34 retired.
Yeah.
Now with the Bills, number 34 retired. But nobody's wore it since you wore it here.
Right.
But somebody asked for it once, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
Okay, could you tell that story?
Yeah, I can remember when the Bills, I can't remember what year he got drafted, but Leotis McKelvin wore 34 at Troy State. And when he first got here to Buffalo, I can remember Woody texted me and said, we had to tell Leotis, no, you couldn't wear 34 because nobody's wearing that number again. So, yeah, it was Leotis McKelvin that tried to get 34. And but Leotis has always been a great friend of mine, and we joke about that story all the time.
And if you know Leotis, that doesn't really surprise you.
It doesn't really surprise me at all. Yeah, he could have known the history of the Buffalo Bills in 34. He still would have asked for number 34.
He's Thurman Thomas. I'm Josh Reed. Back to you.
Thank you, Josh, and congratulations to Thurman. Straight ahead in 2 minutes, a massive blaze destroys a building in Buffalo. We'll tell you what caused it and what other challenges the fire crews faced on the scene.
And then coming up at 5:30, a historic statue is smashed at an East Side church. Hear how this happened and the disturbing message that was left behind.